Welcome back here on ESPN Radio Winchester. I am Joe Abraham, and joining us in studio today is Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller. Sheriff Fuller has served in law enforcement for decades and has been Franklin County's sheriff for right around 20 years now. And today we're going to talk about his background, his time in office to this point, and the current state of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, public safety, staffing, response times, school safety, all of these things here on ESPN Radio Winchester, and ultimately why he believes that voters here in Franklin County should give him another term. Sheriff, we appreciate you being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us and giving us this opportunity.
Well, to get things started, for listeners who might not know your full story, walk us through your background in law enforcement and how you first got into this line of work.
Actually, I have two brothers that's older than me that was in law enforcement. They're at all their adult life. And odd as this sounds, I was a young man working two jobs in high school, farming and working for Farmers Co-op in Moore County. That's where I'm originally from, Moore County. And odd as this sounds, I made fun of my brothers. I said, y'all never do nothing, just ride around in the air conditioning, don't do much, whatever. But as odd as this sounds, about a year after I graduated high school, we had an election in Moore County. The new sheriff was elected, Herb Glassmeyer. And he came to me at Farmers Co-op and offered me a job. And, of course, Moore County in those days was a sheriff, a deputy, and a dispatcher, 3 employees.
Wow.
1982. Was at the old jail there on the square, which today is a museum. So I thought about it a couple of days. I answered him back and said, I'll take it. So that was 1982, August of 82. I went to work for him when he took office in September 1, 1982. And it was quite an adventure for me because I've been used to work manual labor most of my life. I started working in the public when I was 12 years old. And so it was a different turn for me. And, of course, I realized pretty quickly, way we worked, sheriff worked 24 hours on, I worked 24 hours on. So that's how we had to work. I had no benefits, zero benefits, no retirement, no insurance, no vacation, no sick time. It was just the way it was, no overtime, so forth. So I realized pretty quickly, if I'm going to stay in this profession, I've got to better myself. So I went through the academy in February and March of 1983. Back then it was 6 weeks academy. Today it's 12 weeks. So I progressed. I ended up putting out applications. I was hired for Franklin County. I came to work here as a deputy sheriff in September 1, 1985. That's where I've been ever since. So that's sort of how my career began. And I felt compelled to, and I know this may be a question, but I felt compelled that I could help people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask you, why did you start law enforcement? And I felt compelled that I could help people be a positive, but at the same time, it doesn't always work that way.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking of that, you've served in the role of sheriff now for about 20 years. And when you look back, what moment kind of stands out? Is there a moment in time that you're most proud of, or an accomplishment maybe?
There's 2 accomplishments I can think of that I'm very, very proud of. One is the first rural reentry in the state of Tennessee. Christine Hopkins and I put that together early in my sheriff's tenure. I was actually 2007, about a year after I was in office. She came to work for us, and it's been phenomenal, the recognition we've had. And the second accomplishment I feel like I'm very, very proud of, we were able in 2013 put SROs in every school in this county. And I'm very proud of those two things, probably more so than anything I've accomplished since I've been sheriff.
Well, after 2 decades now in the office, one of the questions that comes up is what motivates you to do the job each and every day, and really what brought you to deciding to run again?
I've had issues throughout the last, ever since the coronavirus. We've had issues with staffing.
Mm.
We've had issues to be able to keep good people, simply because of the state of a lot of things. And I think what triggered ours was George Floyd.
Mm.
We've had a lot of dissent, to people not wanting to get in law enforcement. And moving forward, this election cycle, every election cycle is different. This one, naysayers, I'm going to leave it as that. Say you've been here long enough. It's time for you to go. You've done a good job. It's time for someone else to take over. We need change. So, but I feel like I got a lot of fuel in the tank. I feel like I've got a lot to offer. There's some things moving forward that I'm going to try to see through, implement. I make no bones about it. After this cycle, I'm planning on running again. I'm 63 years old. I feel like I've got a lot to offer, and my heart is in what I do. And I think everybody, for the most part in life, has a calling. And I think this is my calling. I feel like that is my 44th year in law enforcement. At the end of September, or 1st September, will be 44 years. And I think that brings on a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. Unfortunately, I've learned things the hard way at times because I'm sort of determined about what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Determination is driving force, but I feel like I can still help people.
Yeah.
And when I say help people, we see people in our profession that doesn't have an education. They're in the third, fourth generation of addiction, third, fourth generation of criminal behavior. I think that if we can change that dynamic, break that link, we've had a good day.
As far as your time in office, what do you believe that voters maybe know about you now and how you serve the community, as opposed to what they didn't know when you first ran?
I think, in a sense, they realize that I'm serious. I get accused sometimes of being too blunt.
Mm.
I'm going to tell you like it is, what's on my mind. I'm not bashful to, so to speak, defy some odds. Sometimes I'm not a look at me person. I'm going to show you what I'll do. And I think that's been well established throughout my tenure as sheriff. And I don't go to the commission asking for stuff unless I need it. And I've had some experience with that early on. Had some experience with that prior to me becoming sheriff too. I had some commissioners tell me early on that if you need 6 cars, if you need 6 cars, ask for 10.
Mm.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask you exactly what I need.
Right.
And if they vote no, we'll deal with that and move forward the best we can. That's the only way you can deal with it, because I've been told no many times.
And to that point, I mean, you go to school board meetings and there is when they're talking about the budget, there's a specific conversation that is, okay, money's tight. Is this a want or is this a need?
Yes, absolutely. And there's quite a difference between wants and needs.
Mm.
And, and you got to establish that right up front.
Right.
And, the luxury items that we all hope for, wish for, a lot of times doesn't come to reality unless there's some kind of grant dollars maybe that you can get a hold of to help you. So there's quite a difference between the want and the need. And I learned early on, you can control OPEC, fuel prices. You can't control inmate food prices. That's 2 things you can't control.
Right.
And you maybe use some different avenues to minimize that, but you cannot control those two things.
In your mind, looking back on your time, not just as sheriff, but in law enforcement, you mentioned 44 years. What has changed the most about law enforcement in Franklin County during your time?
Technology.
Hmm.
When I began here in 1985, and even when I began Moore County, we were pen, pencil, and paper. Computerization came about for us at the sheriff's office actually a little bit prior to 2000, but 2001 went to a management system. And that system has been phenomenal to give us resources to do what we do today. And we have had this that happen ever so often where the system goes down.
Mm.
And you got employees that are totally lost when it comes to that. What can I do? How to document an arrest or a service of a warrant or whatever the case may be. And of course, odd as this sounds, I got a fan folder out in my vehicle today of all the old forms that we used to use. So worst comes to worst, I can pull out a pad of forms to give you to get you to that point until the computers come back up. So, but our day and age, modern day and age that we are in, none of those guys, maybe one or two that's still around, still working, understands where we started at and where we're at today.
We're joined in studio by Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller, the incumbent, running for Franklin County Sheriff once again here. And, as far as things that have changed when you talk about technology, but turning towards just Franklin County itself, how has the county changed?
It's changed dramatically. We've seen over the course of my entire career since 1985, we've seen growth, especially around lakes, subdivisions, property being sold, farms being sold for subdivisions, and we're still number one. Our number one source of income in this county is from agriculture. Secondary to that is Nissan and AEDC, and the list goes on. But I've seen a lot of growth. We've seen in the last 4 to 5 years, a lot of people move here from the western states, California, up the northern states, Michigan, those states. And the number one question I ask a lot of times when I find a group or one or two, why'd you move here? And majority of the time, I'll say 90% of the time, the answer I get are your taxes are low. And it's a tax structure issue, plus some of the radical decisions have been made in some of those other places.
Right.
I know California, for example. There's a lot of people that have become to the point they do not like their lifestyle in that state.
Right. It's interesting, you mentioned that the tax structure is the response that you get the most. I would have hoped that it would be, wow, the way of life, here. We want to keep the way of life. And
I'm going to give you a prime example. Yeah. 4 years ago, I spoke at a fanning band. I've got to do it in the next several weeks from now again. There was 22 couples at Fanning Bend when we spoke 4 years ago that had never voted in Franklin County. So after all the candidates got done speaking, I stepped up and I said, I'd like for each one of you couples to go around the room and tell me why you moved here. And majority of those people then were from Memphis, Murfreesboro. And it wasn't necessarily tax issues as much as it was, for an example, Murfreesboro is growing in leaps and bounds, and they were so totally dissatisfied, or not satisfied with the infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, those things. Memphis, for obvious reasons, was the crime was running rampant at that time. Since then, that's took a nosedive, thank God, in the right direction. But that was their response, and I was sort of shocked because I was expecting tax structure. It wasn't that. It was they wanted a much somewhat slower pace of life.
again, joined in studio by Sheriff Tim Fuller. And Sheriff, to end the segment, what do you think, the biggest misconception that maybe people have about you?
I feel like probably I'm accused of being too blunt sometimes, and I'm very humbling. There's not a day goes by I don't pray about what I do. I'm a Christian, proud of that. And a lot of times the people think that I'm being too harsh about stuff, but my way of life, the way I grew up, my parents or my dad died when I was 6. My mother was not bashful to use a belt. And I've had my tail blistered. I've had my tail tore up. I'm proud of every one of them because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. But I think a lot of misconceptions sometimes with me that I'm too blunt or I'm too easygoing. One of the two.
We'll take a quick break here and be back on the other side with more from Sheriff Tim Fuller. This is ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester. Welcome back to ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester. We'll continue our conversation with Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller. We've been talking about his time in office and the current challenges facing the sheriff's office, some of his history and things like that as well. In this segment, we'll get a little bit deeper. Before we do, I want to ask you a quick question about, after 20 years, why do you feel like voters should choose continuity with where we're at over change?
I'm going to say this to lead off for that. Look at my resume. Look at my opponent's resume. And I feel like you'll see the difference. I feel like I've been a very effective leader. I represent Franklin County on a national level and the state level as well. I'm not bashful to do those things. I get criticized sometimes for going those sheriff's meetings on national and state level. It takes usually about 3 weeks out of my life a year. It's not a vacation. And I feel like my leadership ability speaks volumes for itself. I feel like that my opponents have positives as well as I do in some parallels, but I'm not ashamed to tell anybody I've worked every position in a sheriff's office except for being a corrections officer. And I know what it is to work multiple desks in my career. I have done so. Multiple child abuse cases. I have experienced it firsthand. I'm not bashful to testify in court. I've done it many, many, many times. And I understand what our employees, what challenges they have to make those cases. I understand that because I've been there.
You've talked about some of the things that you're proudest of, some of your biggest accomplishments during your time as sheriff. Shifting gears, what do you think maybe are some of the biggest issues or challenges facing the Franklin County Sheriff's Office today?
I think today, in today's world, number one, we have had in the last 3 years, we've had a issue, or not an issue. Thank God we got good county commission. I've been blessed with county commission all the way, the entire time I've been sheriff. But we've taken a different approach in the last 3 to 4 years to look at our pay issues, our employee benefit issues. And our commission has taken a very, very positive approach to that, because if you don't stay in a upper salon with your pay, you're going to lose people to other agencies that pay more than we do. So I think that's a big challenge we've had for a number of years, but in the last 3 to 4 years, we've taken a very, very solid, positive approach to that. And a lot of times I've been asked, who you lose? When you lose an employee, where they go? Why? And majority of the time, it's over benefits. And odd as it sounds, our pay is very, very positive in today's world that we're in, but we do have one issue, and I hear it quite often. Our insurance for the employee is very good, but for his family coverage, God help your soul, because you're going to pay a minimum if you have family coverage about $1,200 a month.
Oh wow!
And so that transcends into the next question. Well, why has the school system got better insurance? They don't have better insurance because same as we do. The difference is the school board pays a percentage of family or employees' family coverage, which we do not.
Oh.
So that's a huge issue. The insurance issue.
Yeah.
Insurance.
What do you believe the department is really doing well right now?
I think we're doing well with our service as far as going out, performing our job, answering our calls, service or process or drug cases. Our drug cases is I feel like we're not as good as what we can be, sure, in all aspects, but I feel like the drug cases have been a premier of ours my entire tenure, really. Yeah. There's times that we went through a phase in the 2007, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to the last 2 or 3 years of meth labs.
Yeah.
We was number one in the state, in the nation, in meth labs. Yeah. Thank God that has took a different turn, but we have the issue today with fentanyl. We have the issue today with overdoses that really trouble me, because we're losing young people at a young age over taking a pill or huffing, whatever the case may be, and next thing you know, we're doing CPR on them, or we're deploying Narcan, for an example, on almost a shift basis.
Yeah, I have become very familiar with the Franklin County Prevention Coalition as well, and the county. That's one of the things that I think that the county is doing really well.
Absolutely,
is their partnership with that program. All right, so where do you feel like the department can improve?
I feel like we can improve in obviously our service, no doubt. And I feel like the drug issue is area that we can improve more than we have been, because I'm not satisfied where we're at with that. I really am not. There's a lot of people that are walking the street today that need to be investigated and arrested. Bottom line, dealing dope.
Is there anything, if you could go back, at over the last term or even over the last few terms, that you could go back and change or do differently? Is there anything that you'd go back and change?
Absolutely. That's a interesting question.
Yeah.
Last election cycle, I got beat up quite a bit in that election cycle over the adding on to our jail.
Right.
Number one, I don't have a vote to do that. Number two, I have seen us in our history at sheriff's office not the sheriff's office, but the commission makes some bad decisions on infrastructure, on our facility, being overcrowded, knew it, and turned into $8 million worth of federal fines against Franklin County.
Oh, wow.
And so we knew we was going to have to build. We knew it in 2010, 11. And so we moved forward. We needed to get our current day jail paid off before we could. I made it clear it was on the plan of action. And the mistake that I made, bar none, I went into the commission in 2016, I think it was 17, saying, here's the cost estimation to build onto the jail. It's going to be $9 million.
Right.
So they approved it. No problem. They knew we had to do this. No problem. We had already had the plans laid out, so forth. When it came to bid, the lowest bid was a little over $13 million.
Right, right.
Had I had an opportunity to go back today, I would not have given them the $9 million number, because I knew what it's going to cost to build.
Right.
I had a cost estimate. I'm not beating up on those guys because they estimated what they could at the time.
Right.
Months later, we go down and put down for bid, and it's 13.3,
Wow.
I think, as I recall. If I had it to do over today, I would not have come out with a $9 million number until I knew what the lowest bid was.
Right.
And looking back, that's one thing I
Yeah.
would change.
Yeah, you've caught a lot of heat for that in the past, but it's one of those things that the process doesn't necessarily seem to make sense, when
Absolutely.
you consider all of the things that have gone into it. Now, for people who look at long-serving officials like yourself, sometimes a question is raised, well, if this issue or there's a problem hasn't been fixed now or by now, and they've been in office for a term or two, why should we expect that it be fixed in another term? How would you respond to folks who maybe are critical of things that haven't yet gotten done?
Every year since I'm in the office, usually in January, we have a meeting with our supervision. And I say our supervision, I'm talking about with the captains, the sergeants. We have a meeting. What can we do better this coming year? What is our goal? So that's my answer to that is simply that. I know there's some changes, election or not, needs to be made in the upcoming year. I know that for a fact. So I'm not going to get into details of that, but there's some changes that need to be made.
As far as your position, what do you feel like you've learned serving as sheriff that you simply can't learn from being on the outside looking in?
It's the toughest job you ever had in your life. I have took pride in this still to this very day. I make my cell phone public. I don't have a day off. My work week don't end at 4 on Friday afternoon. My work week is no telling what it's going to be. It's the toughest job in the world. And bar none, you may walk in the door when you take office as sheriff and think you pretty much know everything. You don't. You'll find yourself, there's sheriffs across this state with more time than I've got. I've had to make that phone call and say, hey, I got a situation I never had before in my career. I need some advice. Have you ever dealt with this? So you got people you can lean to as mentors, not just in the state, but nationwide. And I'm not ashamed to do that. And I've had to do that on several occasions. And you're confronted with stuff like never before. You may have I'll say a family that supports you, have always supported you until their little Johnny or Susie gets in trouble and they want you to do some questionable things to try to help them out. You can't. You got to be honest and straight up front. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I make no bones about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not go to my deputies, my investigators, and say, hey, so-and-so would be appreciative of some help on this.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I want them to do their job. That's why we have courts. So the courts will make the decision what punishment I may get. We're not in punishing business here.
Yeah.
So I'm not bashful to tell you that. And a lot of people don't like it sometimes.
I would say, based on your level of experience, you talk about making those phone calls and getting some advice from other people. I would say that you probably get a few of those phone calls yourself.
I do.
From folks looking for some advice.
And I thought about this last night in depth. We have great working relationships with not only inside the county with our police departments, but our neighboring counties, our sheriffs, highway patrol, TBI, even to the federal government with the FBI. We just worked with them last week. And I'm proud of that because I've had people call me before, not just in neighboring counties, but statewide, even nationally, and saying, hey, I need some advice. And I love to be able to help somebody else out too, if they need advice. But I've had to do the same thing. I've had to.
To wrap up this segment, is there anything that keeps you up at night when you think about public safety in Franklin County?
Absolutely. I'm going to say this. If my phone rings at 10 or 11 at night, it's not somebody call you and say, man, I appreciate what y'all done today. No. It's a bad call usually. And usually from jail, the first thing that goes through my mind, have we got an inmate that has died for some reason, come in, been arrested, that swallowed a bag of dope, and now we're doing CPR on them? Then the second, and not secondary, but just as equal, is I listen to radio all the time. I have 2 scanners in my house, never turned off, one in my bedroom, one in my kitchen. And I hear those calls. It makes me draw up into knots at times because they're in a bad situation, a bad pursuit. And that's my worst fear, is getting a call that one of our men or women has been either harmed or even dead. And we've had that to happen too. So that's what keeps me up. The decisions a lot of times that we have to make, yes, I've lost sleep over it before. Last thing I want to do is have to fire somebody, and we've had to do that quite often, unfortunately.
We're joined by Sheriff Tim Fuller here on ESPN Radio Winchester, and on the other side, we will talk a little bit more about the policies within the department, questions there, and again, 20 years, he is the incumbent, and so we'll ask some of the elephant in the room type of questions about why he deserves another term. It is ESPN Radio 1340, 106.9, WCDT Winchester. Back here on ESPN Radio 1340, 106.9 WCDT Winchester, we have been really blessed with the opportunity to talk with Sheriff Tim Fuller, the incumbent. Been in office as a sheriff for 20 years, running again, and just a wealth of knowledge, that you've gained over that time, and it's really cool to just, again, get some insight from you on this. And for voters specifically, they know about your experience, but some of the things that they might not necessarily know about are specific policies that you guys have. The first question I have for you regarding policy is from a staffing standpoint. Do you feel like the sheriff's department is adequately staffed at this point?
I feel like we are, but at the same time, we're in a situation where we're 10-hour shifts, and there's a reason for that. When I first took office in 2006, we were working 12-hour shifts. Our corrections officers this day still work 12. 12-hour shift for patrol, and we started out with 12-hour shifts in 2006 when I took office. About 2 months in, I had a sergeant come to me and said, Sheriff said, it's not working too good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you some examples of that issue. Number one, you work 6 at night to 6 a.m. You got court at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You sit in court till 4 o'clock. You don't get out of court till 4 that afternoon. You got to be back that night at 6. How's it going to work out for you?
Wow.
No sleep, no rest, dangerous.
Yeah.
That's one issue. The secondary issue, you work those 12s, it thins out your numbers to the point, let's say you got 4 on each shift and you have 2 that are off, 1 sick, 1 out on vacation, training. So now you're down to 2. So we 3 years ago, I asked for 3 deputy sheriffs, and I was really surprised because I was expecting opposition. It's the hardest thing in county government to get another employee. And it went before the finance committee for budget hearing. It was approved. And I'm not beating up on anybody, but our chairman of our finance committee has been very, very staunch about those hard questions.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. So that went on the full commission, it was approved. We got 3 more deputy sheriffs. One in particular was for the purpose of being a supervisor over the SROs. We had no sergeant in that position. We had no fill-in if we had a SRO out. So I was needing that other position, one of those. The other 2 was put as deputy sheriffs on the road. But I feel like our deputy sheriffs, far as the deputies on the road, I feel like we could use more, yes. But am I going to ask? I'm not going to until I absolutely see it. I positively need to. I know here in recent times, the naysayers again is talking about 12-hour shifts, talking about we only have 2 people at times from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m., which is true. And part of that reasoning is we took 2 of the guys and put them in our addiction unit, and we've shorted ourselves in that particular area. And the reason on the 10s, our lap over shift for the 10-hour shifts are from 8 o'clock at night till 2 a.m. And one of the reasons we made it that way is because our peak time for our calls is nearing that time frame, our peak time. And our response time, I checked on this last night because I thought I was correct. It's about 10 minutes at the most for response time countywide, which is well below the national average. I'm very proud of that. I wish it was 6 minutes, but we're not there yet.
Right. As far as the overnight time period, you mentioned when you have 2 deputies on, does the response time go up during that time, or does it stay consistent?
Believe it or not, it's consistent.
Really?
Which is shocking. Our busiest time of the year, by virtue of the lake, is the summer months.
Right.
From Memorial Day all the way to Labor Day. It's our busiest time of the year. Our busiest day of the week is usually, odd as this sounds, Sunday. Really? Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
It's not Saturday, it's Sunday. For whatever reason, I don't know.
We don't have enough people in church, I don't think.
Well, you wonder. Our call volume, Winchester, Deckard, north to the Coffee County and Moore County line is where our call volume, our bulk of our call volume is. Our bad wrecks a lot of times in that area.
Yeah.
South, we don't have, the call volume is nothing compared to the north end of this county.
You mentioned recruiting and retaining qualified deputies and folks to serve in law enforcement, and the challenge that is. How difficult is it to get qualified employees?
I'm going to give you an example. We have not had a huge difficulty, but we have. 2013, when we was filling 8 SRO positions, we had 200 applications to go through. We narrowed that down to 32 people that interviewed for 8 positions. Today, if we've got 6 to 7 applications of potential deputies, we're fortunate.
Wow.
That's a difference. And I think the difference is come as a result of, I see it quite often on a posting for law enforcement on Facebook. Do you have a take-home car? Do you allow facial hair? Can I work whatever shift I want? Well, if you come to interview with us for a job and you tell me you can't work but this certain shift, all I can tell you is you need to go somewhere else. Maybe they can accommodate you, because in law enforcement, you're expected to work any kind of shift, day or night. So starting out in law enforcement, more than likely your days off is going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's not going to be on the weekend.
Right.
And, so if you come to work or come to interview for a job and you have the premise you got to work a certain shift, then you need to find somewhere else to go.
Has turnover been an issue with the sheriff's office to this point? And what do you guys do to try and reduce the level of turnover? I know it's an issue in every form of business or any kind of organization. But
there's two answers to that. Turnover issue in the jail is unreal. Mm. We have probably five people in corrections that we have 35 corrections officers. We have 5 of those positions, maybe 6, that have no desire to do nothing but corrections. Majority of the time when we hire corrections officers, their goal is to become a deputy sheriff on the road or a police officer, or maybe advance at some point to state or federal agencies. So usually speaking, when we have openings, we look in the jail first. If we have openings as for a deputy sheriff position, we look in the jail first, normally, because those guys want to move up. Usually, on average, they'll spend 2 to 3 years in jail before they have that opportunity to move up in the deputy's position on the road. The deputy's positions, here again, I've caught some criticism here recently for naysayers that we've had a bunch of people leave. Everybody we've had to leave with any length of experience is either retired or went to federal, a state job with better benefits, better money, and I'm proud of them. I love to see somebody progress to better themselves financially and professionally if they can. So that's where that lays with that. As far as recruiting, we had a program many years ago called the Explorers Program in the high school. And it went away really at probably our 2017-18 era of time, because we didn't have a lot of interest of young high school students wanting to become an explorer. I'm hoping at some point we can get back there. To me, that was a way to recruit. The bigger issue on the recruiting, also, we have a reserve unit. We've had a reserve unit way before I was ever thought of in the sheriff's office. In our reserves, typically speaking, we got enough positions for 24, 25 people. And right now, I think we have 13. So that reserve unit also feeds into the mechanism when we hire people as well. So that we have not had a major difficulty of hiring people by all means, because we're fortunate in this county, because we're in the county, and I'm speaking for police departments, we pay the best. A lot of times that's right to reverse. Police department pays better than sheriff's office.
How do you feel like, or does staffing affect response times?
It does. From a standpoint, you've got a regiment, a particular number you need on the shift, be it second shift, be it days, be it night shift. So it can affect your response time if you got a bad call with 4 or 5 deputies on that shift all tied up in one location.
Right.
That don't happen a lot, but it happens. That affects response time. It obviously does.
Right. As far as some of the rural areas, do you feel like there are other areas that still really pose a challenge, or rural areas within the county that still really pose a challenge to the sheriff's department?
I really don't anymore. At one point in time, I did, because we, up till just a few years back, we had no radio contact, no cell contact in Sherwood.
Yeah.
So we rectified that probably 8 or 9 years ago. We were able to put a tower up, communications tower, to our radios work. I'll say 99% of the county, we have very good coverage. And that Sherwood area was our issue with that radio coverage. Now, they have a cell tower down there now. I think AT&T has a cell tower. They have cell service now. But once upon a time, we had no communication back to our communication center. If you needed anything as a deputy responding down there, you had to go knock on somebody's door and say, "Hey, can I use your telephone?"
Right.
And that was a huge problem. But I think that in today's world, we're in very good situation there.
Circling back around to the drug problem in Franklin County, we've addressed how it's changed over recent years, from the work put in on so many different levels across the county. But where do you think the county is in regard to drug and law enforcement? And even in terms of the partnerships that you guys have with maybe some of the local departments and neighboring counties, schools, treatment groups. Well, I guess, what does the overall issue look like today?
I feel very positive with the approaches we've taken. I'm equating that to the sheriff's office because I go back to 2007. I signed one of our investigators DEA. Currently, I do not have one assigned. It's in the virtue of we have to go through a procedure process to someone else put into the position. It was vacated several years ago, and I'm having to go through that process as we speak. But I feel like we're in a very good position at today and age. And here recently, the advent, or not the advent, they've been there for years, but our drug task force from the judicial district has become very involved with us in making those cases. Another partnership that was very well welcomed, and I feel like we're making some very positive progress with that issue.
As far as the school district and again talking about safety within the schools and the SRO program, how do you feel like that program is working, is progressing? Do you feel like there's area for improvement anywhere? And how have you seen those officers begin to build trust with students across the community?
I'm going to try to take the trust issue first.
Okay.
A lot of times our SROs, they're assigned to a school, and once they get to that school, they build relationships not only with the staff but the students. And if you disrupt that, you change them to another school or move them to another school, it's an absolute not a good situation.
Yeah.
Because it turns the relationship upside down.
Yeah.
With that particular school. The training. We took on a new level of training 2.5-3 years ago with our schools. We want to do school drills at each school and incorporate EMA, incorporate police departments, incorporate the fire departments, any first responder that would normally respond to a bad incident. We done those drills for the first year. We done all 11 schools. We had some great training come about that we took advantage of. We got our first responders trained, and our training regiment is recognized and utilized by NASRO, National School Resource Officers Association.
Okay.
I'm so proud of that alone because I feel like we have well exceeded where we were at. And we started a different regiment training with all these schools, all these drills. And the backside to it is, and my chief deputy and I were in a meeting several years back where we listened to a lady speak as a surviving mother of a child that was killed at Sandy Hook. Mm. And she gave us her whole scenario, the good and the bad. And the bad issue that she suffered was the reunification with the ones that did survive. Mm. It was disjointed. It was no plan, no laid out. So we came back and said, we're going to make a plan for a reunification at different locations outside the school for obvious reasons. So that's what we did, us and our school partners. They've been phenomenal to help us. And another thing that we were able to accomplish along the same lines was our cameras systems to be able to view a camera, say from south where the bad issues going on at the high school.
Okay.
So that's been, our SROs can sign in when something happens to be able to view that system from the adjoining school or school across the county, whatever. That's been phenomenal because that is able them to feed in information in real time, live time, saying, hey, the bad guy's here or the bad guy's there.
Right.
So
From an offsite location.
That's super helpful to us.
Wow.
So our partnership with the schools, with being the vestibules, the security vestibules, we put those in I think it was last year or year before last now. And that's been a much needed asset for us. And thank God for grant dollars, all I can say. But those things we've taken, the first responder training to active shooters has been phenomenal.
We are joined in studio by Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller, 20 years serving as the sheriff for the county. And when we come back, we will ask him about technology and, again, why he has earned another term in his eyes. We'll do that on the other side. It is ESPN Radio 1340, 106.9, WCDT Winchester. Back here on ESPN Radio Winchester, I am Joe Abraham, and I am joined by Sheriff Tim Fuller. And we have been talking about his time in office, some of the current challenges facing the Sheriff's Department, as well as other public safety issues, drug enforcement, school safety. And one of the talking points that's really come up here as of late is technology.
Absolutely.
And when we look at technology, there's a lot of new great gadgets and things like that have popped up. Things have been discussed like new radio systems and GPS tracking in patrol vehicles and other things like that. But real quick on the technology aspect of it, what do you believe, if any, right now from a technology standpoint? What kind of investments should be prioritized as far as technology is concerned?
I'm going to address two of the issues that have come up, GPS, and I'll address the radio. GPS system in this state is, I would love to have it to identify our cars, where they're at, what their location is. I would love to have it. But the cost, who's going to pay for it? And it's not a startup cost I'm talking about.
Right.
Startup cost one thing, but continued cost each and every year that pulls on your budget. It will be great. I think it'd be great for officer safety. It'd be great for dispatch to look upon a screen in front of their desk and say, so-and-so is closer, let's tell them a dispatch. Be great. Radio system. We had an opportunity. Coffee counties went to it. More counties went to it. Statewide radio system. We just spent, I think it was 4 years ago, about $3.5 million to upgrade our system. Maybe even a little bit longer. The statewide system's great. Where you don't have a tower to operate off of, it goes to Wi-Fi. So it's great. But what can we do to afford that?
Right.
And I come back down to the almighty dollar. I don't mind going asking for that. Is it a want or a need?
Right.
So that's what you got to do. I would love to see both of them happen, sure, but at the same time, where can we pay for this?
Right.
And I'm not fond of going to the county commission and asking for money when I know it may cause a tax increase.
Right.
I'm not fond of that at all. It's got to be a need, not a want.
Right.
So that's where I'm at on that.
As far as some of the information that we've looked into on this and conversations that we've had, it's like a cost benefit type of thing. Is that yeah, there's a little bit more an incremental benefit,
Right.
but the cost is way outweighs
Yeah.
the benefit on some of these things.
I know back years ago, I know what the number is, and I can't remember exactly how many years. I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. When the city of Winchester went with GPS on our cars, it doesn't. It's not attached to dispatch. It doesn't give you where on the screen of where everybody's at. He's on the location, what your speed is, all those things. Nice, but for all their city vehicles, it was $15,000 a year cost. And you times that, we have roughly 52 sworn people, including myself. You times that times 52, see where you're at.
Yeah.
And what you got to think about that aspect, I've heard in-car computers, there are some agencies have in-car computers in this county. And I'm going to use this for an example. If Dennis Young was alive, God rest his soul, he'd do the same thing, because he and I had to discuss it many, many times. And you put an in-car computer in there, you expect those guys to use it. They're sitting out here at community center in Belvedere. They're using their in-car computer, and you got some bad guy that sneaks up on and blows the back of her head off.
Mm.
You think that's not reality. That same thing almost happened to me when I was an investigator with the sheriff's office on a pull-up phone where I was calling DCS about a child abuse issue. I got a big guy pulled up behind me, had every intentions of killing me. And I did not know it till the next day when he was arrested for something else.
Right.
And the only thing that saved me that day, God's looking over me. I had another officer pull up beside of me, and he said, well, I better not do this.
Mm.
Why? And he was thinking that I was watching him. Had nothing to do with the case I was dealing with.
Right.
So that's what troubles me with in-car computers. I'm so concerned about the day and age we're in. Our officers and deputy sheriffs, the attention to me focus on their surroundings, not on a computer in a car. I'm sorry.
So one of the main questions surrounding this race has been fairly simple. After 20 years, maybe it's time for some new ideas, some new blood. People respect your service, but they believe that it's time for a change. What would you say to people that maybe have that belief?
Like I said earlier in the interview, I feel like I got more fuel in a tank. I got more to offer moving forward. And I will say this. My opponents, I want you to look at their resume. Look at mine. And I think you'll get your question answered. I hear the word complacency.
Yeah.
We all get complacent no matter what position you're in. We all get comfortable at times. But I feel like the root of being not complacent is educate yourself, and I feel like I've done a good job to educate myself to move forward with the technology, for an example. Yeah. But you got to deal with reality. What can afford? What is a want or need? So I feel like that puts me in that situation. I'm not ready to go home and sit on the porch.
How do you think that your leadership style has changed over the years?
It's changed for certain, no doubt. My leadership style, I feel like, comes from my experience. What I know what it is to work a case. I know what it is to go out and make a case. I know what it is. I've been there. And I'm not bashful to go back there if I need to at all. But I feel like my leadership style has changed from an educational standpoint because and I'll tell anybody this, these sheriff's conferences we have nationally or on the state level, I learn more out in hall than in the classroom. Mm. And we're living in a day and age like never before. People don't understand the importance of your involvement with legislation. We play more defense than we do offense. with legislation for as sheriffs. We take more time defending where we're at and what we're doing versus new law being passed. Don't get me wrong, there's new laws being passed every year. It's very helpful. But there's also new laws being passed every year that are restricting what we're once was able to do.
Do you feel like there's any areas where your opponents have raised valid points or questions?
I do in a sense. Because, I have never put a lot of thought into the GPS and the state radio system because I knew that we couldn't afford it. I hadn't put a lot of thought into it, but I definitely brought it to my attention the way they have approached this. I'm very much so looking at trying to do that if we can afford it.
Right.
That's the thing. We got to be able to afford it.
Yeah. All right. Final question for you. If voters reelect Sheriff Tim Fuller, what should they expect over the next 4 years?
There's a couple, three things. One is advanced training. We've took pride in our training. And I want to say that even take another approach. We're recognized on national level for some of our training, especially our SROs, first responders, to active shooters. We also have really stepped up our training as far as knowledge for DUI arrests, drug arrests, those type of things. And secondly, technology is super important. I feel like we have got some goals that we can reach, we can afford. And one of them is a RAD system that we are doomed with scams in this county, bar none.
Yeah.
And there's a system that's offered out there that we can really help facilitate those things. Real-time tracking of cell phones, one. Also, the advent to be able to run a credit card number, see if it's valid, it's been stolen, all those things instantaneously. And I feel like that technology alone is paramount to us. I brought this up several times throughout this course of election. Facial recognition is very, very important, I feel like, because we oftentimes, almost every resident, not every resident, but I'll say the big percentage of residents has door ring cameras. They have cameras at their properties. A lot of times we have got a camera that have given us the opportunity to have a suspect. And so we're having to publish on Facebook, say, hey, does anybody know this?
Right.
Help us. And that's been phenomenal because they really helped, yes. But I feel like facial recognition is very, very important. How do we get there? I feel like it's going to be a grant dollar situation. LPRs, license plate readers, has been a great tool. And I said this when we came out with the LPRs that we were able to get grant dollars. Those LPRs to me is just as important as when DNA came into effect. DNA was paramount for law enforcement. I feel like the LPRs are. I think there's some additions we need to do with LPRs to this day. So I'm hoping to be able to get to that point.
All right. Well, that is Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller joining us this morning here, or this afternoon here. And Sheriff, we appreciate you taking the time to come in and answer some questions, speak directly to the voters of Franklin County. As always, we encourage everyone to learn about the candidates, ask questions, and make sure that your voice is heard when the time comes to vote. Again, thank you for tuning in to ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT Winchester.